You think you're doing your garden a favor. You finish your morning coffee, you walk over to your prized tomato plant, and you dump the grounds right at its base. You feel good. You're recycling. You're giving back to the earth. And you might be killing your plants. That's right. The biggest, most repeated piece of gardening advice on the internet is a lie. Or at least, it's a half-truth, so dangerous it might as well be a lie. And today, we're going to talk about what really happens to your soil when you do this. Not in a year, not in 6 months, but in the first 30 days. The results are going to shock you. Look, my name is Defense Garden. For over 15 years, I've had my hands in the dirt, turning stubborn clay into black gold. I've built this channel, 15 years of growing, on one simple principle: no fluff, no myths, just what actually works. And I've seen more gardens destroyed by well-intentioned hacks like this than by almost anything else. I get it. You see a free fertilizer and you jump on it. You hear that coffee grounds are full of nitrogen and you think, great, plant food. And you're not wrong, but you're not right either. It's like knowing that gasoline is flammable but not understanding you can't just pour it on a campfire. You need the whole story or you're going to get burned. So let's rip the Band-Aid off. The number one reason people tell you to use coffee grounds is for nitrogen. And yes, coffee grounds contain about 2% nitrogen by volume. That's a fact. But here's the secret. The part nobody tells you. That nitrogen is not available to your plants. Not yet. It's locked up. It's organic nitrogen, meaning it has to be broken down by microorganisms in the soil before your plants can even think about using it. And what do those microorganisms need to break down all that carbon-rich coffee? You guessed it. They need nitrogen. So when you dump a pile of fresh, uncomposted coffee grounds on your soil, you trigger a feeding frenzy. The bacteria and fungi in your soil wake up and shout, "Jackpot! A carbon buffet!" They swarm the coffee grounds and start decomposing them. But to power their own bodies, to do all that work, they need to pull nitrogen from the most available source. And that source is your soil. They literally start stealing the nitrogen that was already there for your plants. This is a scientific process called nitrogen immobilization, or nitrogen robbery. For the first 30 to 60 days, your coffee grounds are actually stealing food from your plants, causing a temporary nitrogen deficiency. Have you ever done this and noticed your plants looking a little yellow, little stunted a few weeks later? You probably blame the weather or a pest. Nope. You starved them. You invited a bunch of microscopic party animals to a feast, and they raided your plant's pantry to wash it all down. And it gets worse. Let's talk about pH. You hear that coffee is acidic, and fresh coffee grounds are acidic, usually somewhere between 4.9 and 5.5 on the pH scale. That's pretty acidic. For comparison, neutral is 7, so you're pouring this acidic material onto your soil. Now you might be thinking, great, I have blueberries and hydrangeas. They love acid. And you're right, they do. But most vegetables, your tomatoes, your peppers, your cucumbers, your lettuce, they want soil that's close to neutral, somewhere between 6.0 and 7.0. When you constantly dump acidic material around their roots, you're essentially trying to make them live in an environment that stresses them out. It's like you trying to live in a house where the thermostat is always 10 degrees too cold. Can you do it? Yeah. Will you be happy and productive? Absolutely not. Over time, this acidity can lock up other crucial nutrients in the soil, making them unavailable to the plant even if they're present. It's a cascading failure that starts with your morning cup of joe. Now I know what the internet gurus will say. Oh, the acid rinses out after you brew it. And once they break down, they're neutral. Both of these are true-ish, but dangerously misleading. Yes, some acid is washed away in the brewing process. And yes, fully composted coffee grounds are close to pH neutral. But we are talking about what happens when you dump fresh, wet grounds from your coffee maker directly onto your soil. In that critical 30-day window, they are acidic and they are causing problems. But wait, there's a third punch in this 1-2-3 combination of bad news. It's a physical problem. Think about what coffee grounds look like. They're tiny, fine particles. When you dump them in a thick layer on top of your soil, what do you think happens when they dry out? They form a crust. A dense, water-repellent mat. It's a process called hydrophobia, where the material actually starts to repel water. You can water your plant, and the water will just sheet off the sides, never penetrating down to the roots where it's needed. This crust also suffocates the soil, preventing air from getting to the roots and to the beneficial microbes that live there. You've essentially shrink-wrapped the base of your plant. You meant to give it a drink, but instead, you put a lid on its cup. I have personally seen gardens fail because of this. People water and water. The top looks wet, but an inch down, the soil is bone dry and the roots are dying of thirst. So, let's recap the disaster that is happening in the first 30 days. 1. You've triggered a nitrogen war, where the microbes are stealing food from your plants. 2. You've lowered the soil pH, creating a stressful, acidic environment for most of your vegetables. 3. You've created a waterproof crust that's blocking water and air from the roots. It sounds like a nightmare, right? It sounds like I'm telling you your whole life is a lie. But stick with me, because the truth of what you should be doing is even more powerful. We're not throwing the coffee grounds away. We're just going to stop being lazy about it. The answer, the holy grail, the one-word solution to all of these problems is compost. I know, it's not as sexy, it's not as immediate as just dumping the grounds, but this is where the magic happens. When you add coffee grounds to a compost pile, you are turning a liability into one of the most incredible assets your garden will ever have. Here's why it works. A compost pile is a controlled version of what we were just talking about. It's a deliberate feeding frenzy, but instead of it happening at the base of your prized tomato, it's happening in a pile or a bin away from your plant's delicate roots. Remember that nitrogen robbery? In a compost pile, that's not a bug, it's a feature. You want those microbes to go crazy. You're giving them the coffee grounds, a green material, rich in nitrogen, and mixing it with brown materials like dried leaves, shredded cardboard, or wood chips, which are rich in carbon. This mixture creates the perfect CN ratio, the carbon to nitrogen ratio, that microbes need to work at peak efficiency. They break down the coffee grounds, the leaves, everything. And in the process, they fix that nitrogen. They convert the locked-up organic nitrogen into a stable, slow-release form that your plants can actually use. The composting process also neutralizes the pH. All that heat and microbial activity balances things out. By the time your compost is finished, those coffee grounds that started out acidic are now part of a finished product that is perfectly pH neutral, or very close to it. And what about that crusty water-repellent mat? Gone. In the compost pile, the grounds are mixed with all sorts of other materials of different sizes. They become part of a beautiful, crumbly, soil-like structure that is the absolute opposite of a crust. Finished compost is a sponge. It holds on to water, releasing it slowly to your plant's roots. It's full of air pockets. It's perfect. Plus, here's a little bonus you might not know. Earthworms go absolutely nuts for coffee grounds. In a compost pile, they're like a delicacy. And if you have earthworms, you have the best soil builders on the planet. They'll process those grounds and turn them into worm castings, which is arguably the most nutrient-rich, beneficial soil amendment known to man. It's black gold. So, what does this look like in practice? It's simple. Get a compost bin. It can be a fancy tumbler or a simple pile in the corner of your yard, or even a bucket under your sink for kitchen scraps. Every morning, instead of walking your coffee grounds out to the garden, you walk them to your compost bin. Dump them in. If you add a lot of greens like coffee grounds and kitchen scraps, make sure you balance it with browns. Keep a bag of shredded leaves next to your bin. For every bucket of kitchen scraps, add a bucket of leaves. Turn the pile every week or two, and then you wait. In a few months, you'll have the richest, darkest, most incredible compost you've ever seen. And that is what you add to your garden. You mix it into your soil before planting. You use it as a top dressing around your plants. When you use composted coffee grounds, you are giving your plants everything they want and nothing they don't. You're giving them slow-release, stable nitrogen. You're giving them a pH-neutral boost. You're improving soil structure, water retention, and aeration. You're feeding the earthworms and the entire soil food web. Now, you might be asking, Defense, is there ever a time I can use them directly? Okay, for the advanced class, the answer is yes, but with extreme caution. If you absolutely must use them directly, follow these rules. Rule number 1. Sparingly. I mean a dusting. Like you're salting a steak, not burying it in a salt mound. We're talking a very, very thin layer, less than a half-inch thick. Rule 2. Mix it in. Never leave it as a layer on top. After you apply your light dusting, gently work it into the top inch or 2 of soil with a cultivator or just your fingers. This breaks it up and prevents that crust from forming. Rule number 3. Know your plants. Only use it around established, acid-loving plants. Your blueberries, azaleas, rhododendrons, hydrangeas. Do not put fresh grounds near seedlings. The caffeine, while not a huge issue for mature plants, can inhibit seed germination and stunt the growth of young, tender seedlings. And keep it away from plants that prefer alkaline soil. Honestly, it's so much more work and risk to do it right directly when composting is foolproof and 1,000 times more beneficial. Why risk it? So let's go back to the title of this video. Don't throw away coffee grounds. This is what happens to your soil after 30 days. The answer depends entirely on you. If you follow the bad internet advice and dump them fresh at the base of your plants, then after 30 days, you've got stressed plants with yellowing leaves, sitting in acidic soil that's being robbed of nitrogen, topped with a waterproof mat that's shedding the very water they're desperate for. But if you listen to 15 years of experience and put those same grounds in a compost pile today, then in 30 days, they're well on their way to becoming a superfood. They're broken down, their pH is neutralizing. Their nitrogen is being converted into a plant-happy feast. You've taken a potential poison and started the process of turning it into a miracle. That's the choice. The easy way that hurts your garden, or the smart way that builds it into a powerhouse. If this just saved your garden from a caffeine-fueled catastrophe and you're ready to start growing smarter, not just harder, do me a solid and hit that subscribe button. We're busting myths and building incredible gardens every single week here at 15 Years of Growing. And I want to know, drop a comment below. Be honest, no judgment here. Have you been using fresh coffee grounds on your plants? Let's talk about it. We're all in this to learn and grow together. Now go save those grounds, but for the compost pile. Your garden will thank you for it.